So we all want to build these incredible cultures, right? Cultures of high trust and psychological safety. But here's the thing we often forget. A healthy culture isn't some destination you arrive at. It's a living, breathing system. And like any living thing, it has a natural tendency to drift. So the real question for any of us in a leadership role becomes, how do we protect the center? How do we keep it real? This right here is our starting point. You really have to let this one sink in. Safety is not a set it and forget it kind of deal. It's a daily, moment-to-moment practice of alignment. Because without putting some conscious guardrails in place, even the best, most well-intentioned cultures will drift off course. It's almost guaranteed. And that drift, it almost always pulls us toward one of two unhealthy extremes. On one side, you've got harshness, that brutal honesty that's really just truth without any dignity. And on the other side, you've got performance, which is all about niceness, but it's a niceness that completely lacks honesty. Both of these might feel safe for a minute, but they're just illusions. Neither is real.
Okay, so if we're going to stay centered, we're going to need a framework. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack the 5 most common risks that cause this cultural drift. And more importantly, we're going to introduce the practical guardrails, the core disciplines, really, that can keep a culture aligned and keep it real.
So the first risk is just acknowledging the reality that this work is, well, it's hard. It takes endurance. See, a safe culture totally depends on consistent leadership and really clear boundaries. But the moment leaders get reactive or inconsistent, those boundaries start to get blurry. And suddenly, clarity turns into confusion, and everyone on the team is just left guessing what's okay and what's not. The guardrail, then, is a deep commitment to being steady. First, this means consistency over mood. The standards don't change just because you're having a good day or a bad day. It also means doing regular clarity resets, maybe monthly, just to get everyone back on the same page. And probably the most important one, leadership has to model repair first. Leaders don't have to be perfect at all, but they absolutely must be the first to show what real accountability looks like. All right, risk number 2. This one's tricky. A truly safe, trust-based culture will often feel threatening to people who are conditioned for those old-school performance-based hierarchies. Folks who are really attached to being right, or who use niceness as a tool to avoid being direct. They'll often resist this kind of shift. And sometimes they'll even start using the language of safety to hang on to that sense of control they're used to. So our guardrails here have to be really firm. First off, no entitlement to access. Your position on the org chart doesn't just grant you relational access to other people. Second, we have to value growth over being right. Self-awareness becomes way more important than just winning an argument. And finally, clarity beats persuasion, every time. We learn to state what is with dignity, instead of trying to manage or persuade everyone about how they should feel. Now, let's get into how we handle the discomfort that just naturally comes with growth. Because a healthy culture doesn't get rid of friction. What it does is provide a dignified way to navigate it and actually learn from it. And this brings us to risk number 3, which is a really critical distinction. So many people confuse psychological safety with just an absence of discomfort. But think about it. A culture that avoids all tension is also a culture that's avoiding the truth. It's avoiding reality. And this is the absolute core of it. Safety is not about being comfortable all the time. It is the firm, unwavering promise of non-retaliation. It's the guarantee that you can speak your truth, you can raise a real concern, or you can own a mistake, without any fear that you're going to be punished or humiliated for it. That's real safety. So this points to some really necessary practices. We have to explicitly define what safe conflict looks like. It's honesty, plus dignity, plus a clear path to repair. We have to normalize discomfort, not as a threat, but as a signal that we're growing. And we have to teach the difference between upholding a shared standard, which is about protecting everyone, and just taking personal offense, which is really about protecting the ego. The fourth risk is just about being human. Learning new relational skills, like how to be compassionate without trying to rescue someone, it takes practice. People are absolutely going to misstep. They'll get defensive, they'll offer help that isn't wanted. A truly safe culture doesn't punish this learning curve. It actually makes space for it. So instead, the culture builds guardrails for learning. We normalize the missteps with our language. We say, we will miss it. It's going to happen. And then we normalize repair by saying, and we will repair it. See how that shifts the focus? It moves from shame to restoration. And we support that with simple, repeatable micro practices that make this kind of growth feel accessible to everyone. This brings us to our final and maybe the most subtle risk of all,
what happens when the very language we're using to create safety gets used as a weapon? Yeah, this is a significant danger. Any powerful framework can be twisted and misused. People can start diagnosing each other, labeling someone as unsafe as a way to win a conflict. Or they might use the language to signal how morally superior they are instead of doing the actual hard work of self-accountability. The antidote to this is all about disciplined language. So instead of labeling people, saying something like, "you're unsafe," which just makes them defensive, we use clean, observational language. We describe a specific behavior and its impact. When this happened, the impact on me was that. This keeps the focus on the issue, not on attacking the person's identity. The guardrails here really have to be non-negotiable. First, a strict no diagnosing policy. We only speak to the impact something had on us. That's it. Second is the mirror first principle. This framework is a tool for self-reflection long before it's ever a lens to judge someone else. And finally, authority accountability. A leader's power means they have to be more accountable for repair, not less. All right, so we've looked at the risks and the guardrails. Now let's bring this down to earth with a few practical tools you can start using, like today, to check your own alignment and help keep your culture real. I want you to think of these 5 pairs as a kind of compass for your own alignment. So when things just feel a little off-center, you can do a quick check-in. Am I witnessing or am I trying to fix? Am I seeking repair or am I looking for punishment? Am I upholding dignity or am I trying to dominate? Am I offering clarity or am I just trying to persuade? Am I operating with consent or with control? And remember, this is a mirror for you, not a weapon to use on others. And here it is, a super simple 5-minute micro practice you can do every week to stay aligned. Just ask yourself these 4 questions. Where did I choose performance over presence this week? Where did I avoid clarity just to keep things comfortable? Where do I owe someone a clean repair? And finally, what one boundary would help me stay steady in the week ahead? So I'll leave you with that final question to reflect on. This isn't about doing some massive, exhausting overhaul of your life. It's about the small, consistent practices of awareness and repair that over time create really profound change. So what one boundary, what one small act of steadiness will you practice this week to keep your culture and yourself real?